Yep. Reading this article right now. I did this piece quoting Vince Carter as to why there are less and less poster dunks, like the one Anthony Edwards pulled in Game 3 of the series of Lakers versus Timberwolves the other day, and the quote is right. I mean, if the quote is accurate, then absolutely right by slam dunk champion and now Hall of Famer Vince Carter. That there are just less rim protectors, less big men, less true big men just standing at the rim ready to go mano a mano. Good morning, y'all. It is the Sports Affiliations TSA Hoop Show. I'm your host, JR. We are back for second stream of this week. More playoffs, more action today. And we have an eliminated team already, y'all. There has been a sweep. Oh boy. I'm gonna go ahead and blow through some of these games from yesterday, talk about where the series are at, try to get through those. We got some huge possible momentum swinging game series today. And if you didn't know before, the TSA Hoop Show is going hard every Sunday, 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're trying to add an extra show throughout the week, try to keep you guys updated, keep you guys informed, give you guys space and ability to talk about hoops throughout this week. I know that you guys are, for the most part, winding down and weaning off of the NFL draft, and now the hype about Shador Sanders is over, and now that he's been drafted, you guys are probably tuned out of that because you got the 5th, 6th, and 7th round today. So come on over, talk about it. Yo, what up, Coach? Good morning to you. Talking a little bit of hoops. I think we're going to lead off this show by talking about the sweep. That's what we're going to do. I think nothing to report so far about the award, so we're just going to skip over that. But playoffs are still here. We are one team is into the second round. That is the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to go ahead and recap a couple of those games. So the Thunder closed out I think what makes me most upset about this series being closed out is that Game 3. The series was at 2-0 Oklahoma City. They were just going into Memphis when we were starting the stream on Wednesday. We had talked about the injury that Lou Dort had caused Ja Morant. Ja Morant went up for a dunk. You know, it's crazy that we lead the show. Oh, draft finished up yesterday. They got through the 7th round. See, that's how tuned into the hoops I am. You get to work, look, watch hoops, check ESPN, and go home. Anyway, Ja Morant goes up for a dunk on a breakaway, on a pass back, and Lou Dort tries to defend a 2-on-1. Looks like a baby deer out there. His head/arm comes in contact with Jaw's lower body. Jaw has a nasty fall, and that causes Ja Morant to be out for Game 4. Memphis puts up somewhat of a fight throughout 2 quarters, and then Oklahoma City just goes on to win and close out the series 4-0 in Memphis. That is the basic story of Oklahoma City versus Memphis, a team that puts up a half, wins a couple of quarters in this series, but ultimately just loses to grit, defense, 3-point shooting, and a lot of carving up and forcing defenders to be put in a foul trouble. That's what SGA has been doing. Taylor Jenkins wasn't the problem, of course. Yeah, I got Coach. I got Coach commenting on here. I want to, if you guys are watching this show later on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the Sports Affiliations channel so that way you can get and hit that notification button so that way you can get notified when we are live and when these shows get posted, so that way you can go back and watch these later. What Coach is referring to, if you haven't been tuned in all season long, Taylor Jenkins, coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, got fired about a month before playoffs started. And we would have put Memphis in the same conversation as Sacramento, in the same conversation as Denver if Denver had also lost. But we're going to get to that series in a few, and we're going to talk about Coach Edelman versus our long lost daddy. Let's just call him that. So no, obviously Taylor Jenkins wasn't the problem, the issue with this squad. There were a few guys. There's a couple of clips out there on the Memphis Grizzlies that were showing guys like Triple J trying to get guys in a huddle after some poor execution and hustle plays, trying to get this team to rally together because it's a closeout game. It's a Game 4, and you have players just not having it. And so Taylor Jenkins he looked like he was embracing the culture. He was getting this team around him. He had this team able to rally when Ja was out. Again, I think the thing that I'm just going to say it right now, it pisses me off that this Memphis team was unable to, they lost a 20-point lead against Oklahoma City in Game 3. Ja Morant was out, but this team achieved what I believe would be the unachievable. They had a lead in Game 3 up until a minute and 21 seconds left in the game. Reflects on Ja's lack of leadership. Right now, it's a two-horse race between Ja and Anthony Edwards to see who's the better leader between those two, but we'll see. This team had a lead in Game 3 up until about a minute and 21 seconds left to go, in which Oklahoma City took a 1-point lead. Okay, then they started jostling back and forth, and Oklahoma City just ran off with it. The fact that you still have guys that are the hustle guys, G League guys, becoming pro guys like Scottie Pippen Jr. being the leading scorer of this team, not multi-million-dollar guys like Triple J, not veterans like Desmond Bain. Trade Ja and let Triple J be the leader. That might happen. I mean, trading Ja would not be the worst thing for anyone's career. But for Memphis team to be able to execute without Ja for a majority of the season, I believe it's 33% of their season for the Grizzlies executed without Ja Morant. because Ja Morant was out with shoulder injuries, wrist injuries, had a couple of hip contusions. Uh, remember the point of the season where Ja said, "Okay, no more dunking," and then proceeded to dunk right after that, a game after that quote had came out. This team is so unserious, y'all. I mean, shout out to Oklahoma City for exposing this team and not playing with their food and letting this team linger around so that way we could kind of question Oklahoma City's ability to be in this playoffs, that them being the number one overall seed isn't just a fluke, because we are looking very closely at who these number one seeds are playing and how these number one seeds are executing. So that closes out the Oklahoma City. See, they're going to be awaiting the winner between the 4-5 series between the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. And they're going to have to wait a bit because as of last night and let's put it right there. Let's can you see there's hawk eye vision that the NBA just introduced that's able to see this, okay? I can barely see that, and I have to wear glasses, okay? So let's talk about Aaron Gordon, two-time slam dunk runner up. I preface it as such because if you did not watch the game, if you did not listen to the game, Aaron Gordon had I can't call it a putback because the shot was an air ball, or this is this the putback and the shot to like win the game in the position that Aaron Gordon came from has happened multiple times in the playoffs. So it's actually kind of funny to see it again. But the way that it happened, Aaron Gordon catches an air ball from Nikola Jokic and dunks the ball to win the game, not tie. I think it's the funniest thing because, first of all, the reason why I mentioned earlier about talking about coaching and execution is because uh, fourth quarter opens and the Denver Nuggets are up 20 points on the Los Angeles Clippers in Los Angeles. Okay. So Los Angeles comes back. And you can watch the sequence that unfolded in the last 2 minutes, last 2.5 minutes of 3 points being rained down, the execution of James Harden to be able to tie the game, the foul on by Zubats on Nikola Jokic, the free throw, the missed free throw. Okay, let's not like I can't. Iggy came on the show Wednesday. Uh, Again, that's our resident Denver Nuggets fan. If you want anything Denver Nuggets, you definitely should tune and tap into him. He mentioned two big things: free throw shooting and turnovers. Okay. And the free throw shooting was continuing to be apparent when their leader, Nikola Jokic, missed some crucial free throws down the stretch. Went 1-1, the charity strike going towards the end. And then you have a fadeaway 1-foot 3-point heave over two defenders was the last shot. And I'm describing this sequence in detail because what ended up happening after it's airball, and if it's airball, no one catches the ball, no one executes what Aaron Gordon did. This game goes to overtime, and then we possibly might have one of the best comebacks by a playoff team in sports history, outside of what New York did to Detroit. This playoffs. Okay, let's just say this playoff this year. Okay, let's not stretch it out to overtime because there are some epic comebacks. Lakers. Jokic airballs the shot. Fade away 1 foot three from the 3-point line, 3-point area. Shot goes in, game's over, whatever. Then we call Jokic the craziest shot maker of all time. He's been making horse shots anyway, so whatever. But Aaron Gordon comes from the so if Jokic, let me put it correctly. Okay, so if this let's do it this way. If this is let's do the Disney thing. Okay, draw on the Disney logo. All right, that's our painted area. Okay, so and then we have a 3-point line that goes like this. So Jokic is over here with this fadeaway 3-pointer that comes to this side of the basket. So Aaron Gordon is coming from this side of the basket, catches the ball about right here, and now we have replay after replay after replay after replay. Clippers are saying it's no good, and we have a tie series, y'all. It's 2-2. I cannot emphasize this enough. This series is probably one of the best playoff series this season. If you decide to, Memphis fans, you have some basketball to watch. You can watch how a team fights. Watch how a coach can take over and possibly coach his team to win. Edelman's not he's not a scrub coach. Okay, he's been on staffs before. He's got experience, so I think that's where the difference in between Memphis' situation, somewhat Sacramento's situation, and Denver's situation are a little bit different. Is that they actually have some experience on that bench. The thing is that with Memphis, you had a lot of talent in that team and not a lot of ability to rein it in. In Sacramento, you had a mess because you had talent, it was given away. You had culture, it was dismantled. You had a head coach and you flipped out and decided, "Oh, we're on a little losing streak." Barely limped into the playoffs and then got eliminated by a lower seed from a franchise that had no idea what it was doing and gave away their cornerstone player. In Denver, from what I gathered from Denver fans, is that the the firing of their head coach was poorly timed. It should have been executed at the beginning of this season. And we would have been closer, we would have been more focused on just the execution of this team and first year coach, whoever was truly next in line. So there was this belief that, too much Westbrook, which Westbrook didn't play yesterday, so that was a shock to me. He wasn't even in the line. I don't think he was in the lineup yesterday. Um, it's a lot of things that have happened with the Nuggets. So it goes to show that team is still very talented, and no matter who's up there at the helm, there's still a lot more tuned in as long as they have the leadership of Nikola Jokic. I think this team is going to continue to go leaps and bounds and possibly give this Clippers team a run for their money. And I mean, they're up against a somewhat defensively stacked Clippers team who's I believe has had the best defense and defensive rating since my birthday. That's a month and a half of good defense. It's March 5th, by the way. Y'all can go ahead and sign up for giving me them 40-year-old bonuses once it comes up next year. All right. So Denver executes well down the stretch. Shout out to the Clippers for making it a series, and we're back to Denver, and now it's a 3-game series. It's the best of 3. And it's not quite a position that you want to be in either seed, because the pressure to not only the pressure to go up 3-2, I think it's very, very hard. Because if you go back to game 3, you talk about statistics, the team to win game 3s in a 7-game series typically goes on to win a 7-game series in first rounds, like 74% of the time. I might be making that off cuff, but I believe that's around the number. So the numbers and the odds are in the favor of the Clippers still. to the fact that they're going back to Denver, where the series has been split, so both teams have won games on the road. There's potential for LA to go up in this series and possible win the series. To be able to go into Denver, possibly win in Denver like they did first time around, bring the series back to Los Angeles to ultimately close out the series. I think Denver's definitely cognizant of that. I think Denver fans are cognizant of that. So this game 5 is way more pivotal. And if you want to talk about a series and a game of which you could see a lot of other players outside of Kawhi, James, um, Jokic, and possibly Murray, other teams just choking up on their scoring and not scoring as much. It could be a low scoring game 5. It could be a very, very big bloodbath. I mean, teams are barely getting to the 100 mark in some of these series. So if you got a 170, 180 line, possibly teasing that line, you could possibly bet the under on that. It'd be a fun one to look at as far as a game 5, but I think it's going to be a pretty big slugfest. Again, it was 83 or 85 to 65 in the fourth quarter of the game 4 in this series. So teams are defending. You have less fouls being called. It's being a lot more physical. A lot of guys are tight. The rotation's short. So hey, bet the under, have some fun with that series, and you guys make sure that you watch every single second of that series if you can and enjoy it. Because some of us out here are worried about being down 2-1. Warriors and Rockets played last night, y'all, and the Warriors and Steph Curry took care of business in San Francisco. And I am worried for the Houston Rockets because there are some guys out there that are just not executing. Between them, between the Lakers, some of these higher series, they're not seeds. They're just not. They're not doing a job. They're not doing a job that they were set out to. Yes, I've skipped the series because we're going to get to that series in just a second. But I want to talk about how important, again, game 3 winners, odds in their favor. The Warriors and Rockets, their next game is again in San Francisco, so you definitely need to split that series if you're Houston. A lot of people pick the Warriors. Again, we talked about it at the beginning of the playoffs with these shows. Who we picked to come out of these series. We're going to go ahead and post up who we have as our winners for each of those games in just a moment. Taking a second to get the coffee. So again, if you guys are just tuning in, we are updating you guys on the series, possibly giving some of our predictions, giving you guys some ideas on who to bet on. Golden State looks really good. They are executing very well. And key difference in game 3 versus games 1 and 2 for the Warriors, Brandon Podziemski. Brandon Podziemski started great, started early, hitting open shots, and that was a big difference in between what you saw. Of course, he was battling. I don't know, something going on in California with the food, man, because Luka had it. Podziemski had food poisoning, what have you. So battling those symptoms and then trying to go into a game and running for 40 minutes is absolutely terrible for any type of player, for anyone having to do that, even if you're at the gym. So I'm pretty sure that he was going through it, but that was a difference in between the Warriors being able to execute without Jimmy Butler. Don't forget that Houston won game 2. Jimmy Butler's out, had an opportunity to take over the series and run away with it. And now Jimmy Butler, we'll see what his status is for game 4, because that contusion that he suffered, again, by no fault of Amen Thompson's, but just fell on his tailbone, and that was pretty bad. So we'll see what Jimmy's availability will be for game 4. Keep that updated for you guys. And give our thoughts on who you should roll with for that series. But definitely BP is the reason why the Warriors came out of that game. Let's let's talk about because these guys are playing today. Let's talk about the Magic versus the Celtics real quick. Because you want to talk about heroes and who came alive today, right? Or who came alive yesterday. Gary Trent Jr., ladies and gentlemen. Gary Trent Jr. Decided to have himself a game, and just pulling it up right now. And this was on Friday, actually. Gary Trent Jr. went out and had himself a game, and Gary Trent Jr. Gary Harris. Gary Harris? No, Gary Trent. No, Gary Harris. I don't know why I keep saying Gary Trent. Anyway, came out, helped Orlando down the stretch. Super important to Orlando Magic, and helped make this a series. I mean, the way that it was going down, Jason Tatum, on again, off again, due to that wrist injury. Helped turn this series into 2-1. I mean, Boston is still leading. Boston's still the favorite to come out of this series. But hey, we want to talk about this being a very Gary Trent. Yep, Gary Trent had 34. Thank you, Coach. I was trying to pull it up. I know it's there. Make it a series. I mean, playoffs is all about unsung heroes, and guys coming out of the woodwork is someone who normally isn't an X factor, and that's what playoffs are all about. It's just being able to step up into the role. Orlando has all the momentum going against them, given that they're going up against last year's champions that execute like champions. And Boston doesn't always play with the full deck. Sometimes they have guys that are not 100%, and they still seem to execute. And this series just got extended an extra game. So shout out to Orlando Magic, definitely doing it. You're still getting consistency from guys like Franz Wagner. Paolo Banchero is still continuing to climb and execute. But we mentioned in the first two games that Orlando needed some help outside of those guys, and basketball gods answered and delivered as Gary Trent Jr. So shout out to the Magic for extending this series. Today, I believe, do we have a game today for them? Yeah, they play the afternoon game, so they're going to be back in Orlando at 4:00 today. So for all you Bostonites, definitely keep an eye on that game. How do we get 12:30? Okay, gonna move on. Moving on in the series. Real quick, Knicks versus Pistons. Knicks figuring it out, getting a little bit more physical, going up in the series against Detroit. Now it's looking a little bit more like basketball is being played with these teams. And for Detroit, the issue is having everybody on. Not so much like Orlando where two guys are on and then it needs a third. It's more of like everyone sort of plays good on both sides of the ball, but they need everyone to execute at just that step higher to be able to make it a solid defense against a New York team that was essentially built to try to go through and go deep into the playoffs. The Karl Anthony Towns is real. No shade on him. The Jalen Brunson experience is something otherworldly. And I say it like this. To be able to witness someone that's able to thread and fish and get guys off balance. And I mean, the free throw thing is one thing. Let's put that aside. It's simply there was an experience that we had with James Harden not too long ago with the what did they call it? The RIT move that was famously made popular by Kevin Durant, but James Harden made a living off of that for some series in playoffs when he was in Houston, of course. And it seems like now with player space, um, I think what's the craziest part of this experience of witnessing the execution of Jalen Brunson, particularly in this series against a much more physical team in the Detroit Pistons, is um, Brunson being cognizant of that space and getting players to jump into or around that space, and him utilizing that to essentially create. I'm going to say it like this. I want to say it in a positive manner. Create scoring opportunities, because when you have a team like Detroit who heavily depends on turning you over and then turning those turnovers into points as a part of their scoring volume, I think it's important when a team that you're playing against that has some momentum in certain parts of certain quarters, especially you saw that in game 2 and a little bit in game 3, to slow the game down, to say, okay, we're going to stop the bleeding by stopping the clock and putting myself on the line and giving our chance an opportunity to either take back or increase the lead. So just from a positive perspective, I think the experience of what we're seeing with Jalen Brunson is something that we should keep an eye on, not just now, but going throughout the summer, because if it tends to be something of a negatively received aspect, the words free throw merchant are being the phrase is being heavily utilized by the NBA community, by coaches at large, and by fans ad nauseum. I believe if you start to hear that being turned up a lot more and more, if you see the Knicks get deeper and deeper to the playoffs, and you see the continuance of the whistle being blown in favor of players like Jalen Brunson utilizing that player space and executing in this particular manner, you may see a big change by the rules committee. Because again, before the season started, the Adam Silver came out and announced that as the playoffs started to approach and this season started to unfold, that the refs were going to be calling the games, and the games were going to be executed more in a FIBA-esque style. If you go back to other shows, we talked about that in depth of what that means, but just to give you the cliff notes, less fouls, more physicality. So maybe they double down on that this summer due to this series. Nonetheless, New York's executing at a good clip. Knicks Pistons, game 4 for them tips off today. They have the first game of today. They're in Detroit. New York leads that 2-1. Right now, it's looking like the team that rebounds and executes better in the dull moments is the team that's going to win this series. So right now, that's New York's. Unless something immense happens, a key injury, then you're probably going to see Detroit losing this one in 5. I personally, let's just go ahead and get that up right now. I had Detroit winning in possibly 6, but that remains to be seen. Let's go ahead and get the bracket up. Share this with you guys right now. And as you can see clearly, got Detroit winning that series, but we shall see. All right, so moving on. Hey guys, I don't know if the Bucks watched this show, but they won a game yesterday. The other day, Bucks decided to come out to play monstrous game by Giannis Antetokounmpo, and everyone coming in and following suit. Welcome back, Dame, fully. and they are now in this series. This is now going at least 5 games. I had the Bucks winning this series just because I just didn't have faith in the execution of the Pacers. If the Pacers continue to play like they did yesterday, then the Bucks in 6, but we'll see. Very, very spearhead like team in the Milwaukee Bucks, in which I mean the head of the spear is definitely GA as far as offensive execution. But you have one of two teams in the Bucks. You either have a team with a very big head and a long shaft. I didn't freeze up. I just paused. Very dangerous, long in the spear type of team that can execute really well and stab right into the heart of the defense and execute great if all cylinders are running. It's either that or you have a spear that's just the head and it's sort of broken at the head, where if like even as it looks like it might be something that's a threat, it doesn't look like you don't really scared of it. And that's why the Pacers won the first 2 games. They're not really scared of the Bucks right now. And I think the Bucks are going to have to. They're going to have to win their game at the pace that they win their games at. So the last game, 117-101 at home. And I think that if you're the Bucks, you have to start scoring in that 110, 120 range, especially when you have the personnel to be able to score that much. I mean, in that game. Game 3, GA goes for 37. Gary Trent Jr., 37. Okay, let's just go say this now. Gary Trent Jr. helped the Bucks win. Gary Harris helped the Magic win. All right, so when we go back and we audit this show, just remember that I had said Gary Trent Jr. helped the Orlando Magic win. That was my bad. Gary Trent Jr. had 37 and helped the Bucks make this a series, since we're talking about the Bucks. Gary Trent for 37. That's the help right there. Damian Lillard only had 7 points. 1 for 8 from 3, 2 for 12 in that series. So again, spear the head, and then you need everyone to kind of follow and suit behind that. I think being able to have guys step up in that offensive role. Forget defense. Let's forget defense. Just to be able to score in this series is super important for the Bucks, and I think that if they're able to execute at that clip, it's going to be tough for the Pacers to catch up. But we'll see. We shall see. Again, my prediction, you can see that there. I picked ignore me picking the Lakers to win it all. Okay. Let's just ignore that for 1 second. Okay. I believe that the Bucks have enough offensive power, enough offensive execution to be able to beat the Indiana Pacers. It always comes down to a question of whether they're going to do it consistently, because you see this team win one game and you have hope. And you lose that hope when the tip-off starts at the next game, because then the Pacers start out on like a 13-0 run. So we'll see. All right. Somewhere in the East is a series being played. Okay. Quote unquote. It's being played right now. Cleveland versus Miami Heat. And Cleveland is up 3-0 in the series. Honestly, it's kind of not fair that they're not done yet. Because the Heat aren't making this much of a series versus Cleveland. They push the team within the game for 3 quarters and then just lose it all in the fourth in 2 games. And then in the third game, it's just absolutely nonsense. Cleveland, they play I'm going to say their last game is tomorrow in Miami. And it just hasn't been much of a series. I mean, guys are scoring in general, but Cleveland is just having their way with this team. They won game 3, 124-87. I mean, whatever the plus minus is for Cleveland and Miami, you might as well just go ahead and bet on it just for the fun of the spread, just to execute and see what this team, what the Heat are going to do to execute to close out this series. The Heat don't have a culture problem. The Heat got rid of the culture problem, allegedly. But with the culture problem, they also got rid of their scoring. So they can't continue to rely on Tyler being a hero, pun intended. They cannot rely on that. They have to go out. They have to search for. There's a star out there somewhere that's going to be able to help bring some offense to this team, because now they score at a worse clip. I mean, granted, they're going up against one of the best defensive teams all season in the Cleveland Cavaliers, but the Miami Heat need to go out and find someone that's going to be able to carve up defenses and help Miami be a winning culture again, because they score at a lesser average than the Orlando Magic, and that's saying a lot. I mean, that's with good 3-point shooters in Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Okay, so the fact that this team is only scoring in the 90s versus a Cleveland team that it's defense to offense and interior scoring first, that's not going to get it done. Yeah, they're the first 10 seed to get to the playoffs, which is not much of a historical feat because the play-in tournament is not that old. So give it about a couple decades, and then we can go back and talk about the first 10 seed team or the only 10 seed team to be able to get into the playoffs. We can talk about that. But I think getting in is different than being able to execute and say that you belong here in the playoffs. Games tomorrow, I'm picking Cleveland to win that game, close out the series, watch it be 4-0, as my buddy Rico would say. Get out the broom. It's a sweep. I don't believe in calling sweeps before they actually happen. But that series is about washed. I got to get through that real quick, just so that way we can get down to this game that happens at 12:30. Minnesota's up 2-1 because late game execution in game 3 helped Minnesota go on a 13 or 14-2 run. Lakers tied the game at 104 in a game of which Luka was allegedly battling food poisoning, lack of rim protection, and just late game execution, poor execution on the Lakers, great execution and shooting by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And now the series is 2-1 Minnesota. And momentum is all in Minnesota's favor right now. Again, I mentioned this to you guys at the start of the playoffs. Mentioned it to you before the series started. I said it, and I'm going to keep on saying it. Do not underestimate Minnesota. Some of the things that they have been doing, some of the ways that they have been executing, have been at the same clip as the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. These guys have come on and come alive at the right time, and they're doing basically the same thing that Dallas did to teams last year. So I want to make sure that you guys pay very close attention to the personnel that's executing. Yeah, they added Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and people believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves have somehow, some way got the better end of that deal, but there's still the case of Rudy Gobert being put on the island. Rudy Gobert is still a threat. No matter how he executes, he may not have Victor Wembanyama numbers, but he's still a defensive presence, and it gets harder and harder for the Lakers to score layups and score inside when Rudy Gobert is present. It's absolutely apparent. Lakers have to rely on jump shots, 3-point shooting, and be able to maneuver Rudy Gobert out the way, unless someone is just brave enough to go up and dunk on him, and I don't believe anyone is. This team has the T-Wolves have the right pieces to be able to execute, to be able to take this series to a 3-1 series and possibly close the Lakers out in Los Angeles in 5. I know we all said Lakers in 5. It's not going to be the case now. You got to do it in 6 games. Lakers have to win 3 straight. I think that's the only way the Lakers win this series is they win 3 straight. and this series does not come back to Los Angeles for a pivotal Game 7. Some people are saying that it's going to be 7 games. I sincerely doubt it. Cleveland needs a sweep for their mindset. Cleveland does need a sweep for their mindset. People need to believe in Cleveland. But if you're watching the series as a Lakers fan, 3 key things. Again, the Lakers are supposed to tout this 3-headed dragon in LeBron James, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic. All 3 have to hit. One of the worst things about this is the start of either Luka or LeBron. Luka has. Here's how you know that Luka's going to have a good game. It's because his shot selection at the beginning of the series is somewhat similar to previous games, but they fall at a better clip. Like it's hard to say when you're listening to the game. It's hard to kind of like verbalize it to you, but you'll see some similar shots being taken by Luka, but the percentage of not just who's guarding him, but in what part of the clock he's executing them and what part of his rhythm. If you see him taking better quality, similar shots, you'll see them fall, and him starting out early is how you know that Luke is going to have a good game. Austin Reeves. The way that you know that he's going to have a good game is not because of him being able to execute late in clocks when there's no one to give it to, when guys are denying Luka and LeBron the ball, but when Austin's able to hit those catch and shoot jump shots, those bailout passes when guys like LeBron are getting caught in the air, and he's able to execute towards the end of those plays. And that happens within the first or second quarter. When he starts to get it going in the first half, that's how you know it's going to be a good game for him. But the biggest thing, and again, it was a waste of a game 3 for LeBron James, who had 37, I believe, 38 in that game. Waste of a game, but LeBron has to start hot. Like he's notorious for starting out slow, not having a single point within the first quarter. It's something I don't understand. How the Lakers are able to execute and have success with LeBron not scoring in the first quarter. He'll have assists because he passes guys open. So some of the first shots that you'll see are 3-pointers from like Rui, 3-pointers from Gabe. Some like, LeBron driving, kicks it out to an open shooter for 3. And then that's the first point of the game. And while I believe that it's great that the Lakers are getting those shots, I don't think it's good for the Lakers to solely to go away from their bread and butter when they're executing their Death Star offense. And the only shooting that they get for the first 3 or 4 shots are 3-pointers, because it takes away belief of their ability to execute at the rim, which, yes, when you remove Rudy Gobert, the ability to score jumps up significantly and it becomes on par with the rest of the league. But the Lakers should be able to execute, because Rudy can't guard 5 guys on the court, and one of those guys needs to be able to hit a layup. So LeBron James needs to be one of those guys to be able to hit a layup against Rudy Gobert. I believe that he can, but LeBron has to start hot. Not hot. Let's say tepid. Okay? 4 points in the first quarter is okay. 10 points would be absolutely freakish, crazy. You know it's going to be an absolute nonsense of a game if he's able to do that. But they're in Minnesota today. They start at 12:30, and if you're betting first quarter points, this will be a great game to bet either Luka first quarter or LeBron first quarter points on the over. And conversely, on the other side, guys like Nas Reed being able to execute on the 3-point line, that's probably one of the bigger differences in the Lakers being down 2-1 versus being up 3-0, is that the support for Anthony Edwards has been there. Everyone is doing their job. The only one that hasn't been executing as well as we believe that he should is Julius Randle. And I don't know if it's because he's back in Los Angeles or if he's just being the Julius Randle that we've seen on again, off again throughout the season. Fact of the matter remains that you're going to need a great game from the big three on the Lakers in order to outduel all the support and all the stuff that Minnesota's throwing at them for game 4. We'll see who comes out of that. I have the Lakers coming out of that series. Of course, I have the Lakers as champions, but you guys let us know who you have in the comments. Not much else to wrap up and go about for the NBA. That's going to be the playoffs today. So New York, Detroit tips it off at 10. I got New York winning that game and New York going up 3-1 in that series. We'll see what controversial calls come out of that. Lakers versus Minnesota follows right behind that. It's going to be a blockbuster game. Right behind that, Boston at Orlando. We'll see what Boston does to bounce back versus, after that egg that they laid the other night. And then Indiana versus Milwaukee. Again, I got Milwaukee coming out of that series. Not sure why East Coast game is being played at 6:30. That's 9:30. That's 9:30 in the East, even though it's in Milwaukee, so it's going to be more like 8:30. But that's That's a really, really late game for that conference. So don't know why the NBA did that. They could have swapped Los Angeles, and maybe it's because of travel. Because after this game, they have to come back to Los Angeles after that. I don't know, whatever. But it's a very late game. But if you guys are still up watching that game, I got Milwaukee taking that game. That's it for the NBA show today. Don't forget, you guys can leave questions in the comments. You can go and hit us up. Don't forget to find us on thesportsaffiliation.com. If you ever need these in the archives, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. A little bit shorter of a show, but we can't always have this much fun every day, every show, guys. I feel like we're letting you guys have a little bit too much leash with the information that we're giving you. You guys need to come on and give us your thoughts, love, and appreciation. We'd appreciate it. And don't forget to stay tuned. Season awards are still being given out. Don't forget we still got defensive. Evan Mobley just won Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to talk a little bit about that. That was one of the guys that we had put up for our votes in our blog. You can check the blog out at thesportsaffiliation.com. Don't forget to follow us on X. Follow the Sports Affiliation. Follow myself at 4F Apollo. You can follow all the other guys who come on the show. Love, peace, and chicken grease. We will see you guys either later this week, most likely later this week. So don't be surprised if we pop up on y'all. Holla.